We do have to leave early, so
Party!
Anyone that is extremely excited right now because we are on 20 minutes early.
You just made your day that much better.
There's snowing. So you are listening to Average Rants here at KNMC
90.1. It astounds me. We've done this for how many months, and you still have to read the sticker?
I look at it just in case, because sometimes I say KMN.
Oh,
because I'm like KMNOP.
KN. What's after N? MC.
Yeah, KNMC. I'm getting better.
90.1.
Did you not hear me when I was first on the radio by myself? I'd be like,
That's why that sticker's there.
Yeah, I know. And I'd look at that one sometimes too. One right here.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, community calendar.
A little early.
Oh, yeah. So this is not even close to the date. Oh, here we go. There's a little bit. Wednesday, September 29th, Books and Babies at the Haverhill County Library. That'll be from 10:15. Haverhill County Library. I said it right. Is it my accent?
I don't know. I don't really
Oh, man. I know what we're doing. Thursday, September 30th. It's Lego time at the Haverhill County Library. I will make sure that we get all the good pieces.
I was like the flat pieces.
Right? The only thing I didn't like about the flat pieces is when you forgot you put one down and you were building some more stuff, and then you were like, why doesn't this line up slightly? Because then also trying to get them off. Break off the flat pieces. And then the ice is getting started to put in at the.
I was going to say, like, it's also, what time of year is it?
It's hockey time.
What happened last night?
Hockey time. Toronto won.
The NHL's first preseason games of the season.
Toronto dominated Montreal because they couldn't do it in the playoffs.
We're going to embarrass you this year in the preseason. And they did.
They did. I mean, it looked like both sides had some starters in it, so it wasn't like. But I mean, Montreal got rid of a whole bunch of players.
And they didn't exactly start their best player.
Well, Toronto didn't have Matthews or Marner out, or.
That's good because they probably wouldn't have scored on Price anyway.
Price wasn't out there.
I know, but they wouldn't have scored on him anyway.
Yeah, probably not.
Like Carey Price is your guys' like kryptonite. Dude, we're on the radio. Why are you looking at minis?
It's near the end of the month, so I can look to see what kind of free things that I can grab.
We don't have another time of day to do this. Instead of concentrate on our listeners.
Our listeners like hearing about my minis.
Do they?
Yeah.
I don't have any comments for that yet.
Yeah, because they're just like, why would we go against it? Funny thing is our wives are going to tune in to listen, and we're going to be like, did we miss something? What's going on?
You totally missed something. Because we're on a whole 20 minutes early today.
Yeah, well, we've got your daughter's birthday, so.
Party. Which is cake, man. I love cake.
No, you don't.
No, I don't like cake. I really don't like cake.
But I mean, I 3D printed the toppers for your daughter's cake.
But this cake's different. This one's got Jell-O on it. And Rice Krispie treats. And I like Rice Krispie treats.
Your wife is a weird one. She puts so much effort into things.
She loves making cake.
I mean, I'm not against what she does. I just know that my household, this could not happen. We'd be like Rice Krispies, pile them up.
You're an artist, right? You like to do art. Think of it that way. Like her cakes kind of look really artsy.
So I've been painting a mini, and I have to get it done by the 30th so I can enter this contest. I figured since I'm painting them anyway, I might as well try to paint one that I can enter in this contest. And it's if you paint some from this one guy that he designed, and you paint them, you can submit them, and then you can win cool prizes just for submitting. And I was like, well, why don't I? Even if I'm not like the world's best painter, because you look at the past entries and people clearly have airbrushes, and that's a whole new level of mini painting.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have that option, so I'm painting one just for the heck of it. But the difference between art in a cake and art in miniature form with paint is I paint for like a half hour and then I stop and I come back to it a couple hours later. With the cake, you got to put the full effort in right up there as you go. You got to be dedicated.
Have you seen what those guys can do at like those shows where they do like art with like cakes and
oh
my
goodness,
and you're like, I don't know if I want to eat it. Like it looks real.
Have you seen Nailed It? I think you and Amanda would appreciate that because of the stuff that she makes, and she's like, I don't know if it's that good. I could have done better. There's a show called Nailed It, and what they do is they just get non-professional women that like to bake. So it's not like they have no knowledge of how to bake. They like to bake, but they're not professionals. So Amanda could go do it. And then what they do is they give them like a time limit, and they have to try to make a professionally designed cake. So like one of the things that they had to do in it was they had to make a recreation of a picture of a dog. It was the host's dog, and they have an actual professional artist, cake artist there that designed the cake in the time frame that he was given, and then tries to get these average people to do it. Right. And it is hilarious what they look like. Because I feel like Amanda would almost make it look like that damn dog.
Oh, she give it her all. I know that much.
Right, but this one girl was like, I think I put something in wrong. It was like literally just a pile of mush.
Right.
Another one, it looked pretty close, but it was falling apart as they were looking at it. I thought it made me chuckle.
Baking is hard.
Oh yeah, I like cooking because you can be, you say, I need a little bit more of this.
Well, see, cooking is great for you and me because it goes kind of like the way we do construction. We can hide stuff with a little bit more flavor. It may look like a pile of dog food, but I bet it tastes good.
Yeah, that's right. That's when Sammy and I first started living in together. She was amazed with the mush that I could create that was delicious.
Right.
And she's like, what did you put in this? I was like, you don't want to know.
First of all, salt goes a long way. Like, it's amazing what salt will do to just about anything.
I don't use salt in anything if I put something in it that has something. That's my motto.
Yeah, but I'm a firm believer of taste your food.
I usually eat about half of what I make before we eat it.
I know I brought down a half a bag of Rice Krispie treats. There were three left.
I want to ask anybody that is listening, the 3 viewers, the 3 listeners, I guess, that are listening to us, and go, do you seriously think that you could have a buddy drop a bag of Rice Krispie treats in front of you, and you not just keep eating them while you're watching a movie?
Don't forget the Molson and the candy.
Well, you didn't drop the Molson in front of me. I went and got that.
Yeah, but the bag of candy as well.
Yeah, look at that. Well, what were you doing?
Making sure my kids didn't eat it.
No.
Looking out for the safety and well-being of my children.
No, yeah. It was a pretty good night, though. Watch Slapshot. It's a great movie that that relationship part of it, like,
it makes no sense.
It doesn't, because like the way that they define it is if a girl goes to a salon, that'll solve their marital problems.
Yeah.
That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So, question.
Answer.
What's your favorite sports movie of all time?
Ooh.
It's a big category. You can give me your top 3 if you want. And they don't have to be in like 3, 2, 1 order.
Well, I mean, mine are always hockey ones.
Well, that's a short list because there ain't very many.
Yeah. Well, there's more than people know about, but good ones, right? But there are some really good shows that you could watch and that were just like B-movie style for like adult. There's actually a whole series about adult league hockey.
Yeah, that's a series. I said a movie.
I know, but I'm just saying that would be one that
movie. And if you want to watch adult league hockey, you could just go to YouTube. That's all over YouTube.
Yeah, but this is a comedic one.
You just go to YouTube. And I've seen that series. I think
I'm gonna have to go with like. Right? I'd have to go with the Mighty Ducks.
This number was your best one. Which
one?
One,
the
2?
very first one.
I was like 1, 2, or 3.
And it was just, but I mean, I do like Goon. Goon is really good too. But I think for just overall, because it was the Goon was based on a true story, but it was changed to be in.
Well, they wanted to make it more. I mean, the original. If you'd have done the movie the way the guy had done it, it would be a pretty boring movie.
Yeah.
Like,
so, but I liked it. But
he wasn't. That guy, the guy. Sean William Scott's character in that movie had never played hockey ever before. I mean, he showed up in figure skates, guys. The guy that they're portraying it after had played hockey for a long time.
Yeah,
He'd been in and out of the minors for decades, and he was a goon. But
well, yeah, I'd have to go with my Ducks just because of the. I grew up watching that, and always went, "I'm better than those kids," and they won a championship. But
with
then
the flying V, which we will remind you doesn't work.
No, it does not. But the whole point of that movie to me was it shows if your team banded together that you could overcome anything. That's what I got out of it, and I live that motto in hockey.
Well, and coaching, like
when you're a kid, you don't think about the coaching
but
as much.
Still, but those kids didn't work together without a good coach.
No, and they had a coach that was horrible at the start, and then he started getting better. And,
right.
And I mean, are you going to win a championship with this kind of thing? No. But I mean, you can take a team that's last place and get them probably about 50 percenters.
So where does Miracle sit on your list of
Oh, that's like at the bottom.
You're not a big fan of that one?
No, because every time I've seen it twice, and every time I watch it, I'm like, Canada wins this all the time, and we don't have a movie about it.
But you weren't. But Canada wasn't. The Russians were actually favored so ridiculously.
Well, they were favored ridiculously because remember back
they
then,
had lost one game in 10 years.
But you got to remember back then, we weren't allowed to have NHL players play in the Olympics. Russia was.
Right.
So it was a lot of Russian because what they would do is they wouldn't send them to the NHL. They'd keep them there and they'd keep them over there. That was during the Cold War stuff, right? So that's why you have a couple Russians that defected.
That wasn't until later, though.
But
in the early 90s.
Yeah, but Miracle is literally about a bunch of
that's
guys like us.
That's where the Red Wings built their dynasty for the late to mid 90s. They took the Russian five. Those five of those players were actually on that Olympic team.
But that's a story of guys like us that were just really into hockey, but they were not good enough to be professionals, banding together to beat a team that
Well, a couple of the guys went on to play pro, but back then, what people don't realize is they didn't use professionals for the Olympic teams. They used collegiate athletes,
college kids.
But after that, they went to the all-star style where they chose NHL players.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but yeah, every time I watch it, I'm just like, I don't know. To me, it's just like.
But it's you can see that they're actually playing real hockey in that movie. Like you watch the Mighty Ducks, you're like, this isn't even close. I mean, they're so offside on that play. It's terrible.
If that was anything like I've seen, I don't know if remember these like Little Giants.
Yep.
Right, and you're watching that, and I don't know much about football, but I was like, I don't think you could do that.
You can.
Longest mile. Longest yard.
The longest yard. Which version? The Burt Reynolds one or the Adam Sandler version?
Both.
Like
did stupid things in it where you're like, I don't think that's legal.
I can't think of anything offhand, but I'd imagine if I sat down and watched it, I could probably tell you something.
Well, what's your favorite sports movie?
That's a tough call because I like sports movies, and I've seen a lot of sports movies.
I've seen a lot.
Pick a sport, and I'll tell you which my favorite of that sport.
NASCAR.
Well, it's got to be Days of Thunder because it's the only one I've ever watched.
You should watch Talladega Nights then.
I can't stand that guy, so that's not happening. I can tell you the very first sports movie I remember watching, and it's this just goes to show how we were raised differently than we are from our kids now. The very first sports movie I ever remember watching and absolutely just loving it from the beginning to end, Major League. And I had to be like 8 years old.
Oh, I love Major League.
And I had to be like 8 years old when I first watched it.
Yeah.
My parents are like, he'll be fine. They're dropping F-bombs every few minutes. It's fine. He'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's a baseball movie.
That was such a good wild thing.
And as I watched it as I got older, the jokes made sense, right?
Wasn't there with a lot of things? Like I watched Shrek with my daughter not that long ago, and I was like, we were allowed to watch this as a kid?
As I say, this ain't a kid's movie. Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, so that's the first one I remember watching as a kid.
Well, what's your favorite basketball movie?
Oh boy. Coach Carter, probably.
I'm down with Space Jam.
I mean,
anything that throws Looney Tunes in it for me. Except for the new one's not that bad, but it's bad.
it's not very good either.
No.
Looks like a giant advertisement.
It is. It is like a giant. It's dumb when you watch a movie that's not supposed to really have any reality to it, and you watch the first one, and you watch the second one, and you look at the first one again, you're like, yeah, the first one could happen. I could see that.
Yeah.
Because the second
Tiny
one,
cartoons could suck Michael Jordan down a golf.
but you watch the
ball.
second one, and you're like, none of this makes any sense. And I don't know. There's like parts of it I don't want to like spoil it, I guess, because it is a newer movie. I don't know. But there's parts where, I'll just say, like, if you took like a server room and you chopped one of the servers in half, it would literally like screw up a game if it was a server room for a video game.
Right.
But it seems like every movie that has server rooms, the last server is always the one that holds all the information.
Man. Yeah. I mean, I have watched so many sports movies over the years because most of them are classified as action movies, so I watch tons of them.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I've watched pretty much any big sports movie. Like Rudy was one, right?
What?
Rudy?
Oh yeah. That's
Yeah,
also
see,
based on a true story.
I know, but like I've watched those kind of things. That's how I know.
That's kind of a drama, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's how I know a little bit about like
Right.
football because I watched like Little Giants, Rudy.
Don't use Little Giant. That's like using the Mighty Ducks as a reference on how to play hockey.
Well, they're not good on how to play, but they do show you some basic rules in it.
Right.
Like in Mighty Ducks, there's a face-off.
Like if you if you watch the movie The Replacements with Keanu Reeves,
Yes.
right? They actually brought in a lot of those guys that are on the sidelines coaching and stuff. Those are actual coaches. They're playing real football, and they did an interview with a couple of the guys, which is really funny. Is that like John Favreau, the guy who did Iron Man,
Mm-hmm.
he's the crazy linebacker in that movie. He's just bananas all the time. He was the crazy cop who dunked that guy's head in a boiling acid or whatever. That's John Favreau. But they're like, these guys are crazy. They hit hard. Like they're actually out here hitting us like football players. Like,
Well,
and
it's
every time
little-
I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, of all the movies I've seen, there are so many football movies out there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But like I one of my favorite sports movies, like see, I can't give a favorite because I like so many. It's actually called Gladiator, not the Russell Crowe movie.
I was just gonna say like that's old school sport.
Yeah. I guess it would count, wouldn't it?
It is. It was a sport back.
You had to win it because if you lost, it was definitely game over.
Mm-hmm.
But this one had one of Cuba Gooding Jr.'s favorite first movies. It's about a kid who's living with his dad. He gets into underground boxing. So that was a really fun movie. Cuba Gooding Jr.'s in it. It's a really good movie.
So it's kind of like Big Hero 5.
I don't know.
He was into underground bot fighting.
Oh, you mean it's the Big Hero 6?
Big Hero 6, yeah.
Like Big Hero 5, I don't know what that means.
Whatever.
Yeah, underground bot fight. But this is boxing. But no, it's good. It's a fun show. It was one of those shows I ran into as a kid when I was flipping the channels like midnight one night on the weekend, and it was on. Oh,
Yeah, I've always wondered what it would be like to, like if you could take the kids now and get an NHL coach for one practice and get them to run like the high school kids here or something, like they're running a practice for the pros, and to see what the kids would feel like.
Well, in my limited experience with hockey, I would say that there's not a ton of difference. It's just how quickly and how precise the drills are ran.
But I mean, I've watched. Well, and the other thing too is they get mad. They get mad when, and you know,
Well, the biggest difference here is you're not coaching kids anymore at this point, right? So in the NHL, you can get mad at a professional for cutting corners. You've been playing this game since you were 4. You know, stop being lazy because you know I'm going to see it. And they get colorful. Their language is colorful. You've been on enough benches to know that.
I've never swore.
You lie. You said you swore once.
Oh, with the kids there. Yeah, but I never swore at them.
No.
I
You
swore-
swore at the refs.
He let the kid punch one of my kids.
Right. And you had every right to defend your kid. But what I'm saying is like you and I have both coached kids. You cannot treat them like adults. It just doesn't work.
No. I mean, what was it? We're coaching adults now,
And we still.
and I can't treat them like adults.
Well, here's the thing. Like, here's the fun. Like, people ask us, "Well, what do you guys do?" I'm like, I run 8U practices for adults, 8-year-olds and under, because that's basically what a brand new adult is on the ice. Like, you put a deer in roller skates, that's what you get.
We try to throw in more
And well, and as we get,
complicated systems because they can understand
well,
it.
and every drill, you can run it faster and make it more complex. It's the same drill. You just go faster, right?
Yeah.
Now, football is a lot different. You run there's so many different systems. Some people just can't grasp it. Like, it's super hard. So I didn't play baseball long enough to see how well that went.
Okay, baseball, you just stand out in the field and wait for the ball to come in.
Yeah, that's the life of every right fielder who couldn't hit, right?
But I just nothing against baseball. I enjoy playing it.
Oh, I will
wish-
play baseball.
You know, I wish somebody would put me on a damn team. This is gonna be like our thing. This is our biggest rant.
Every week we're like, please put us on a team.
But
We're not that bad, we swear.
I don't know how. Like the only thing that I could see that would be challenging.
We need to go out and put out our video, our tryout video.
Yeah, we got to make baseball man.
Yep, our tryout video.
Baseball man versus pitcher man.
Who's gonna pitch? I can't throw.
Oh, I was a pitcher.
I mean, I can throw. I just can't throw very accurately.
I was a pitcher.
Yeah.
And I
Like,
played.
if we play catch, I'll give the ball to you every time. But if you're asking me to put anything on it and expect it to hit the strike zone, does your hip to your head count as a strike zone?
Oh, if you ask me to do a curveball, then it's just going to hit you in the side of the head. But if you want me to throw a good fastball or slow it down, but I can do that.
You asked me to throw you a meatball, I'll give you one of those.
I used to be able to do the knuckleball that didn't really move, but that one was just so obvious that I was about to throw it. So, but I remember when I was a kid, I went to go visit my buddy, and I pitched for fun. And we were watching one of his baseball games, and the pitcher got hit in the right in the shoulder, and they only had one pitcher because we were 17. And they asked if the other team, if I could come in and pitch for their team, and nobody hit anything, and all I did was throw fastballs all day.
I could field the ball, but I'm asking to be a part of a softball team here. Like,
Yeah, I just want to pitch underhand and make it so that people can have fun.
right?
Yeah.
I can drink beer with the best of them, for the most part.
Yeah, you want to have the most fun you've ever had playing baseball. Get a Canadian drunk trying to play. You guys will see, because you'll think I'm playing hockey. I'll be running the bases. Some guy's going to be in my way, and full on. Well, wait, and I know that if you're running home, you can charge the catcher if he's in your lane.
Only if he's along the baseline.
Yeah. So can I do that if we're at one of these like softball things?
I wouldn't recommend it.
But you can.
Probably.
So if any team has a catcher they don't like, I'll play for that game and I'll charge the catcher.
I used to play catcher.
I just hit the ball and played center field. That's what I played.
I was right field. They didn't hit the ball in right field very often.
I played center field and I got to eat wild strawberries out of the field a lot. Because it was like anytime it ever came to you, it was a pop fly or it was a grounder that somebody missed. And when you get it, they just stop at first and you throw it to second.
Or you're too busy staring at the strawberries and you hear people screaming, and you're like, what? Oh.
but that's like the biggest thing. So like baseball players get paid a whole bunch of money.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And I don't know why. Because the hardest thing to me would be the pitcher's job has got to be like the hardest. And then hitting a 90 mile an hour
90 plus.
Yeah, like fastball has got to be something. But if you gave us a batting cage with a 90 mile an hour and like a month of practice, we would start being able to notice those.
Well, here's the thing though, like it's not so much being able to hit a 90 mile an hour fastball. The trick is knowing when to swing at a 90 mile an hour fastball, because you have less than 3/100ths of a second to decide whether or not you're going to swing at this pitch.
Yeah,
so is this pitch going to be out and over the plate as a strike, or is it going to be outside the strike zone?
So the whole competition of the game is based between the pitcher
And the batter.
Everything else is
in the early 2000s. They even made a movie about this, Moneyball. They figured out that they'd been playing baseball wrong for all years. They were looking at physical athletes based on their physical attributes, like how big, how strong, how fast. And then they realized, then they started to figure out that, well, this guy isn't big, fast, or strong, but he gets on base all the time. Well, how do you score? You get on base. So the more players you grab that have the best on base percentage, I'm going to use OBP here, the better off you are. Because eventually you're going to get all those people home. They're like, well, so he walks a lot. Who cares? If I don't have to hit the ball to get on base, I don't care. So the Oakland A's started this. They made a movie about it. Now it's kind of loosely based. But so now they look at players on average who get on base a ton. They don't care about anything else. They don't even care about their fielding anymore. One of the worst outfielders I've ever seen, I don't remember who he plays for now. He switched teams, but my wife will kill me. His name is Kyle Schwarber. The fat kid, right? Can't run, can't field, but the kid can hit, right? Actually, he did lose a little weight now, but like he was like primo. Like he would constantly hit the ball all the time and get on base. That's all they're looking for anymore.
It's just weird. Like how much is it to go watch a hockey game?
Oh, you can pretty much get in for free. I mean, the pro hockey game, I have no idea. It depends on the team.
Like I know, so for me to have 2 tickets in the midsection in Calgary is like $300.
To go to a Minnesota Wild game, from what I understand, you need to buy from a scalper because you're not going to get any tickets.
All right, but in Canada, I used to go to watch baseball games because it was $10.
Oh, baseball games are still cheap here. Like
Right,
they're
so
not that
I don't
expensive.
know how do they make so much money that they can pay somebody like $100 million.
Baseball is the only sport without a salary cap. So
But how can the owners afford to have a team that costs like over like $800 million?
the New York Yankees are worth, I believe, you can Google this real quick, the net worth of the New York Yankees. They are the most expensive sports franchise in the world. And I think it's well over $5 or $6 billion.
It just baffles me. Like I don't know how. Maybe it's the overpriced hot dogs and beer.
$23 will get you a beer and a hot dog at a football game.
It's got to be that.
Like,
Because people, when they go to those, they buy things. Like even I went to hockey. Like I went to. I'm going to be going to my first Toronto one as long as the border agrees.
in 2021, the New York Yankees had an estimated value of $5.25 billion US.
How?
Brand.
So they're just getting it off of people buying the merch?
Well, why do you think the NHL is such a stickler? How hard was it for you to get a hold of a Kraken jersey before the Kraken were even announced as a team?
Not that hard, but then the place that I got it from doesn't exist anymore.
Within a week, it didn't exist. Like, it's crazy, right? So, yeah, I mean, they are
Yeah, I don't think my wife realizes that, we've sold our house and we're going to be moving. And that with some of that fundage, we are going to have a hockey memorabilia wall get a little bit. I just say that now because I'm assuming she's listening. Due to the fact that we have to end the show a little bit earlier today to go to Derek's birthday. We started about 20 minutes early.
my wife's birthday. Or daughter's birthday.
That's what I said. Is that what I said?
You said my birthday, but that's
No.
close enough.
Yeah. Your
So-
daughter's birthday.
New York Yankees aren't the highest, but they're right there. I mean, like the top is the Dallas Cowboys at $5.7 billion. And then there's a soccer club, 2 clubs with Barcelona and Real Madrid of just over 4.7 billion. But baseball has 0 salary cap.
Hey, Toronto is worth, the Maple Leafs are worth $1.3 billion.
So here's a fun trivia question for you. The worst sports contract ever was paid out to a player called Bobby Bonilla. He played for the New York Mets. They signed him to like a 30-year contract.
Oh,
He's been retired for 20 years. He's still getting $1 million every year from the New York Mets.
they didn't put a clause in there that if you retired,
And he was
good?
never very good. Like he was supposed to be super good, but
Wow. Well, that's what I mean. Like, that's the thing about baseball that baffled me. Like, as long as you could just hit the ball and get on base, you can make more than an NHL player that has to bust his butt, or even like a football player that has to have trains run into him every day.
So here's Bobby Bonilla's contract. In 1991, Bobby Bonilla signed a 5-year, $29 million contract with the Mets. It's okay. He became the highest paid player all time. His contract with the Mets calls for him to receive $1,193,248.20 every year until 2035.
Did they just miss that?
When he will be 72 years old.
That's horrible.
According to ESPN, the Mets agreed in 2000 to buy out Bonilla's contract, negotiating to pay the remaining $5.9 million in annual installments of $1.2 million, including 8% interest for 25 years.
Why?
Because it was a really bad contract. Like, wow. Like, no, if you're Bobby Bonilla, this works out great. You never have to work a day in your
Why
life,
he's laughing?
and you're collecting $1 million every year, right? If you can't live off 1.1, almost $1.2 million every year, you're doing something wrong.
I live off $1,000 a year.
You live off technically. Well, no, you live.
I have some jobs.
You mooch off your wife.
Well, no, if we count her money, we make more. But I was talking about what I live off.
You live off of your wife.
I had a job.
When?
I worked out in the Bear Paws.
Oh yeah,
And then I had to teach a little course.
Yeah.
So I got paid for that too. I can work for the university. My wife just wants me to focus on my education.
Yeah,
I'm going to sell minis, Derek.
You're not very sharp, are you?
No.
Hey, the good news is there's lots of graphic design jobs around here you can go work when you finally graduate.
I'm just going to sell minis. It's going to become my thing.
Is it?
Everyone's going to be like, oh man, I wish I had some cool looking horse that I could put as a centerpiece. And bam, I know a guy.
You made some stuff for my kids' cake.
Well, you can make like anything. And those were just simple things, right?
So, anyway. Enough about that.
Enough about what I need to do to survive. I get it.
You're eating candy.
Yeah. I've used like 80% of my profits. You know?
So, I did find some interesting stories.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, this one was crazy. This one I have to bring up. This was kind of fun. A little child disappeared from a plane during a flight. Then the poor mom discovers the truth. A woman had claimed that her daughter disappeared mysteriously during a flight. Passengers began to mock her, declaring she had been nuts. But then she proved them completely that she was right. So she's freaking out on this plane, right? Because she was sidetracked for a moment to change her little bit. She went on a plane with supposedly 2 daughters, a baby and a bigger one. She stopped to change her diaper, and when she returned, she was distraught. And the flight attendant just kept telling her to calm down, calm down. If she boarded the flight, she'll be somewhere around. Can you tell me how she looks? Then one man explained, are you serious? We saw this woman only with one child. Don't waste your time. The woman is lying. Right?
Okay.
This thing got weird, right?
Yeah, it's already sounding kind of weird.
And the woman's like, no, I'm not lying. There were 3 of us. The flight attendant saw us. Well, there are a lot of children around on board, ma'am, so I don't remember if I saw your daughter, the flight attendant said after the pause, but I will do whatever I can to help you find your daughter. The passengers continued insisting that Sophia's daughter was not on board, but the flight attendant thoroughly examined the entire flight. She looked in the washrooms, her own room, the flight upper deck, and even the food truck that served the passengers, believing the child might have hidden somewhere while playing with other kids. But sadly, the daughter was nowhere to be seen. The flight attendant returned to the mother's seat, dejected. Well, ma'am, I've checked every possible place, but I didn't see her anywhere. Honestly, I also remember only you and the baby. At this point, everyone looked at the mom and just began ridiculing her. I knew she was lying. I didn't see the girl with her either, a passenger from the front yelled. And everybody's like, I know, right? I even saw her taking some pills, another woman said. This is crazy, right? Oh God, is she out high on something? How can an airport security be so responsible to let such people in? An old lady grumbled. There's nothing like that. Please help me, the mom explained. I just took a sedative because I have a fear of flying. Oh, come on, a man yelled from behind. Can you guys stop shouting? I have an important meeting tomorrow. For God's sake, let me sleep. The mother eventually broke down. She tried explaining to everyone she wasn't lying, but it was futile. Sadly, even the flight attendant began to doubt her. Are you sure you only took 1 pill, ma'am? Yes. She exclaimed, I was with my daughter. You can check the boarding pass. The flight attendant hurried to the computer to verify Sophia's daughter had boarded the flight. It turned out she had. Yes, she was with her daughter and checked it. I checked it.
You think they would have done that?
Right? At this point, all the passengers were at a loss, but then where was the little girl? Was she kidnapped? A man spoke up. That's not possible, sir, the flight attendant said. We're in the sky. Makes a valid point, right? It's not really impossible either, the mother interrupted. We need to search everyone's carry-on luggage, especially the oversized ones. Hearing this, the passenger started grumbling. I'm not letting you touch my bag. I have antiques in there, a man who was an antique dealer complained. Sir, we see that a child will not fit in your bag. We will only check the oversized baggage, so cooperate. Why should we? The woman who had complained about Sophia taking a pill protested. She lost her child, and it's her fault. She's a terrible mother. Why should we have to pay for it? My God, people suck.
Yep.
Like, really? I agree she should be deprived of her parental rights, a man seated next to her complained. Despite the objections, the flight attendant insisted on examining the baggage and overhead bins, but sadly, the daughter could not be found. By this time, only 10 minutes were left in the flight to land. The pilot had activated the seatbelt signals and instructed everyone to return to their seats gently. Exhausted and desperate, the mother collapsed on the ground before she could reach her seat. But when she opened her eyes, she saw something that proved her daughter was on board. Sophia's baby was playing with something sparkling on the floor near her. It didn't take her long to figure out that it were the beads from her daughter's necklace. She sifted through the floor and discovered additional beads leading right to a locked luggage compartment. Open this right now, she screamed. Beth might be in there. The flight attendant said, I don't have access to this room. Only the pilot keeps the key to this compartment. Your daughter can't be in there, the flight attendant said. She screamed at her, just open it. The flight is about to land in less than 5 minutes. My daughter won't be trapped in there if we do. We'll be trapped in there if we don't check it. And the criminal will get away. Good God, the story was a lot less reading when I read it to myself. But before the flight attendant could say anything, 2 passengers jumped up and started shouting. There's a lot of valuable stuff in there. We don't want to cooperate in this search. I agree it's a violation of security. Who was she to command us, the other passenger said. Don't listen to them, the mom begged the flight attendant. I have a feeling my daughter's in there. The flight attendant felt bad for Sophia and decided to help her. So she got the key from the pilot and opened a door. There was a lot of suitcases in the room, but no girl. Dejected, they were about to leave the room when Sophia's gaze was drawn to a hand emerging from behind a suitcase. She dashed over to the bag, only to find her daughter unconscious behind it. This is going to get weird now.
Yeah.
She asked her daughter to wake up and asked if she was okay. She couldn't stop crying. The daughter said, yes, she's fine, as she opened her eyes. They brought me in here, Mom. Thank God you came. Like, who brought you in here? And the little girl pointed her fingers at the 2 passengers who revolted against the search in every possible way. They tried to exit the compartment as soon as possible after the flight had landed, but the 2 men blocked their way. Like she had us confused with someone else. It wasn't us, the woman said, trying to defend herself. The mom took a step forward and slapped the woman, told her she was lying, and I know you and your partner had done this. Like, yeah. They tried to kidnap her.
On a plane. Hey, I can tell you one thing.
That's like the whole thing I got. Was like a mother's intuition. Like, she knew her daughter was in there. Like, she just knew it.
Well, it's just, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what would happen with us. The bonus we only have one.
Your wife would start kung fuing the crap out of people.
Like, everybody would be unconscious, and the marshal, which I don't know whether it depends. I guess it depends on where it was from.
I know there's an air marshal on every plane.
There usually is, at least in the United States.
Oh, I know.
The United States and Canada always have one after,
Oh, 9/11.
Yeah.
Good times.
But could you imagine that happened to any one of our kids? Like, everyone on that plane would know that we had kids.
Especially mine.
Yeah.
Sir, you forgot a kid. No, I didn't. He's fine.
Sir, are you missing a child?
Nope.
No, I don't. He's gone. What? No, I only had one.
I've always made this joke, and I love my son to death. But if anybody kidnapped him, they would bring him back crying and tell
That's
me
what
I'm
my
sorry.
parents used to say to me. They because there was times when we'd be in. I remember when I was young, we would be in a store, and I'd just go off, and then I'd come back later, and I was like, "Were you not worried?" That
The minute, and you can vouch for this, the minute they had to change his pants, take him back right now.
Man,
take him back right now. We're getting a different one.
I just wonder what those people wanted. Like, why were they just trying to do human trafficking?
My guess is, yeah.
But then, why would you try to do it on a plane?
Maybe because the mother did look so, like, not really paying much attention because she was concentrating on another kid.
But I'm just going to go from my experience. And I mean, I've never been on an international flight. Like, a really, really big flight.
No, I was just saying international, just from here to Canada.
Yeah, you know what I mean, like the overseas ones that have like where you can have an upper floor and a bottom floor kind of thing.
The upper deck.
Yeah, I've only ever been. I flew to Mexico, and that was the biggest plane I've been on, and that one wasn't even that big. So it's hard for me to imagine because when I'm sitting in a plane and I'm looking around, I know pretty much at least 2 rows in front of me, the 3 rows on the side of me, and the person behind me. I know everything that they have. Because what else do you got to do, right? So you sit there and you're looking around. So how could it, on even a bigger plane, not more people be like, oh yeah, there was 2 kids, and how would they have gotten that girl into that with nobody else noticing?
Yeah, nuts.
I don't know. I'd be killing people. Tell you that, though. If I knew I had my daughter on a plane and she went missing, and everyone was like, "You never had a daughter." If I was like, "Oh, my daughter's missing," anyone see her? If somebody was like, "You didn't have one," that guy's unconscious. Next in line, like.
Right.
That was like I don't think I told you that the school bus drove by us the other day.
I had mine do that too. Well, that's because Aurora forgot to get off.
Well, for us, like they're supposed to stop at this stop sign, and then they usually let the kids in, and then they turn and go by the water tower. And he just didn't even stop. He just went and just kept going. And my daughter was looking at me as she's going by, and I was like,
"Did you have to run, Barry?"
Well, no, he was gone. He was flying. Like you talk about how I go too fast. That guy was flying. Like he wanted to get his job done and over with. And I was pretty mad. And there was another parent there with me. We're both just like, of course it's 2 dads.
Because you're both like, We're supposed to stop, right?
Yeah, like we were talking, I was like, and the one guy's like, he's like, he better be looping around, or and I was like, well, I'll call. I was like, I'm gonna try to call that. And then we were joking once I got a hold of them, and they radioed them to come back. I was like, what do you think would happen if our wives were here? He's like, oh man, that guy would be dead.
No, it happened once with my daughter. The bus actually stopped though, but because my daughter is a talker, she likes to talk. She completely forgot she had to get off the bus. So I had to chase the bus and bang on the door, right? And let her off. Because the bus driver stops, and if no one gets off, he assumes that there's no one supposed to get off.
Yeah, no, we didn't have them even stop. He just
kept on rolling.
Yeah, he didn't even stop at the stop sign. He just went, and was gone. It was just funny though, having two dads go,
huh,
what the heck is this?
Well,
and I mean, when you're new to the school stuff, you don't know what's going on.
And the worst case scenario with that is the guy gets back to the bus garage with a kid, and he's like, oops.
Right, but I mean, at least my daughter was okay, right? Because I asked her, I was like, were you scared? She was like, no. I was like, even though you saw me go by, she's like, I was okay.
I'm on the bus with my friends.
Yeah. Oh, that's one thing that we haven't told her yet, though.
What?
Well, since we're probably going to be moving here, that she's so close to the school that she doesn't need to take the bus anymore.
Oh, to Highland Park? You guys are just going to walk her to school every day?
We're 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
So it'd be weird to... I don't even think there is a bus right there.
No. Not that school.
So she's not going to like that.
Right. It was all about the crazy I found this week. It was pretty fun.
Well, crazy is always one of those... Well, it's always good. So, like, even hearing that story, you're like, is this true?
But that one's definitely verifiably true. This guy's story, on the other hand.
Well, we got another.
We got another.
Winner chicken dinner.
Man claims to be time traveler from 2030. Says he has an X-ray to prove it.
Okay.
Right?
I'm pretty excited now.
Right? This guy, who he wanted to keep everything a secret. His face is blurred in a video. I didn't see the video or anything, and they changed his voice. He is stuck in the wrong year. He goes by the name Noah. He insisted on having his voice and blurring his face, distorting his voice and blurring of his face while being recorded to hide from assassins.
Okay, yeah. Time traveling assassins. I would be a good time traveling assassin.
Who would punish him for revealing the truth, right?
Yeah.
The truth being that there are time travelers, and Noah is one of them. He even provided proof in the form of an X-ray of his hand. In the X-ray, you can clearly see a small cylinder near the bones of his wrist. He claimed that the device was implanted into his hand and that it helps him jump dimensions for his secret missions. Yeah. It's getting real. Noah said he's a professional time traveler from the year 2030. His natural time is the year 2030, he said. That is the year all of my family and friends are in.
I want to know how old is he in that time?
It doesn't say.
Right? Because that would be the first thing I would kind of
Well, he does go on to say that his self, let me finish the story, his self that he could run into in this time period is alive. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Don't want to break the space-time continuum.
So he didn't quantum leap where he takes over himself?
There's a reason why time travel is, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's highly improbable. Anyway, he's a professional time traveler who's from the, okay, I read that, right? He spoke to the U.S. Sun. Don't take too much out of those guys. For most of the stories I read from those guys, they're pretty hit and miss, mostly miss. At that time, he told the outlet he was stuck in the wrong year. Though his family was around in 2019, he couldn't risk seeing them. He didn't want to irrevocably change the course of time forever or destroy the space-time continuum. He's watched a lot of Back to the Future, because that's what people call that.
Yeah.
But how did Noah become a time traveler? Well, back in high school, he claimed the government agents told him the truth about time travel and how it's not just fiction.
Oh yeah, that's what I learned in high school too.
You were sitting out.
FBI just randomly showed up
Yeah.
to tell me all the secrets.
The FBI doesn't do that. It's some other group, like Sector 7 from Time Travelers. From
Lizardmen or something.
well, Sector 7 from Transformers, man. Even the government doesn't know about this government thing.
Yeah.
They recruited him into a top secret program where he learned to become a professional time traveler. He enjoyed a very successful career until everything went wrong. This sounds like Time Cop. Like, seriously.
Or Minority Report.
My biggest issue with, like, why would you create a time traveling agent? Because he already said you don't want to do this because you can disrupt the space-time continuum and change everything.
Well, here's a question for you. Just because we're on the topic of time cop stuff.
I love that.
You know, I always have this thing that you can't commit a crime unless you've been caught for it.
Well, yeah.
So if somebody in our time murdered somebody, but you could go back in time and stop them just before they murdered them, did they commit a crime?
Oh, God. Space time. Simply put, he was fired from his job during a mission in the year 2017, which is why he's stuck in 2019.
Oh, man, he should have just.
But why didn't he just jump back into time and unfire, like to where he wasn't
He should
fired?
have jumped back and been like, I got to make up for this mistake.
Because technically, you could jump forward in time. If you can time travel, you can jump forward and backward.
So there's one reason why I believe that time travel is not ever going to be a thing.
Only one reason?
Like it's a big reason. And that is, does your time stop as soon as you time travel?
No.
So like an example would be is if I was here and I just looked at you and I was like, do you want to see me go back 20 years? And you're like, yeah, well, I'm back.
Right.
You can't prove that I didn't.
Right. I can ruin the second Back to the Future movie for you. Right. If you've seen Back to the Futures, right?
Yes.
So what's funny to me is that he time jumps forward. Marty McFly jumps forward, right?
Yeah.
So everything that Marty McFly that has done up to that point where he jumped forward, every one of themselves would know he's time traveled before. So when he jumps forward to the year the Cubs win the World Series, oddly enough, it actually came up only 1 year short of them actually winning the World Series, which is just crazy. They jumped to 2019, I think. 2018?
Something like that.
Anyway, what I would do if I was like one of Marty McFly, my future self would stand on that corner knowing I was going to show up there because he had to know he had jumped forward in time.
Yep.
I'd be like, stop. Don't do this. You just turn the rest of the movie into a giant, terrible movie.
And the other thing too, when you really think about it, if you time jump forward, but the person that hasn't lived through those times yet jumps, you're not there to create anything for the future.
Mm-mm.
So like if you did time travel, if it could happen, as soon as you jump forward, you don't exist anymore. Or you'd look back and there'd be missing posters for you.
Right.
Because you don't exist. Like I'd be like, oh my goodness, that's my kid. My wife had kids with another man?
Unless they think about it as he jumped forward, but he jumped back right at the same time to continue out his life to that spot. But that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, he would still have to. Now we're getting into the loop, right? And that's why I was like, it just can't happen. Like
the closest they got to legitimately explaining time travel was actually in the Avengers movie because they had physicists explain it. Like, you can't go to the past to change your future because once you go back to the past, that becomes your present. So it's not the past anymore. You are actually in your present.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense. You can't change your future because you've gone.
Have you ever
So your future has now become your past.
Have you ever watched Rick and Morty?
No.
Okay, so I watched like 3 episodes of that and was like, I don't know if I can watch this. And then I got addicted to it because it actually is extremely intelligent. Do you want to know how he does time travel? So so Morty, his grandson, wants to have a reset button. So he wanted his life to be like a video game So what he does is he makes him a reset button, so that every time he pushes it, if he dies from that point on or something bad happens, he can push the button and reset. Or if he dies, it'll reset him back to where he was.
Right.
So in the end, he does this like 153 times or something, where he resets it. And at the end, he finds out that what actually was happening was he was being teleported to another reality.
Dimensions. Yeah.
Yeah, that had a similar reality to the one that he was in at the exact moment, and he was killing a version of him every time he
That's
reset.
the movie The One. Have you ever watched that movie? That movie's amazing. I love that movie. It's a Jason Statham and Jet Li movie. It's a lot of fun.
But that's the way Rick and Morty do time travel. Is they're not actually traveling.
Well, that's
time,
the way.
they're going
That's the
through
way a
another-
lot of physicists see. If time travel is possible, it's not necessarily time travel. What you're doing is you're jumping to another plane of existence,
Yeah.
which coincides with the one you currently have. So there are different versions of you throughout literally, Marvel did it, the multiverse.
Yeah.
So and they're like, well, we can't bring back the Black Widow. She said, yes, you can. You did it with Gamora. The Avengers literally solved that problem in the same movie. When Thanos threw her off to get the stone, they went back in time, got her, and brought her to the future, so she didn't die.
Yeah.
Well, she did die, but this one didn't die.
No.
You could just go back 10 seconds before she jumps off the cliff and go, don't jump. We're going to take you to the future. You've already jumped. It's fine. You got the stone. Yay. And you're back in.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, time travel was always one of those.
Time travel is bonkers. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
I don't care who you are. Feel like, oh, I can time travel. We'll be like, no, you can't.
That
Otherwise,
would
we
be
wouldn't be having this conversation.
Now, one of the things that I thought would be really cool, like, is the movie Jumper. You ever watch the movie Jumper?
Oh, the guys that can teleport?
Yeah, he just jumps from place to place to place, and for some reason, Sam Jackson's trying to stab him with a knife.
Yeah, so they had to have been there before or something, right?
They have to
I
see
remember that they had pictures.
Yeah,
the guys.
if they could see it, they could go there, right? They've seen it. So this guy literally just, it's Wynick Skywalker, whatever his name is. He was so bad in episodes 2 and 3. 3 not as bad as 2, but he was robbing banks and doing all that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you could teleport, you can't tell me you wouldn't be up to some sketchy stuff.
No, I never thought that I'd rob a bank, but yeah, I do sketchy things.
You would teleport yourself front row to every Toronto game.
Oh yeah, I'd be doing weird things, and I would like freak out people, right? Because you'd flip somebody off, and then you run around the corner, and then they come there, and then you go behind them, and be like, "What's going on over here, man?" And then when they turn around, you're just back down the alley.
You're like Nightcrawler everywhere.
That the Marvel movie there, what X-Men was it? The second one, when they introduced Nightcrawler, and that scene in the White House.
Yeah.
I was like, that was the coolest scene I've seen with somebody.
They brought him back in some future movies where he's in the Dark Phoenix, which was not the greatest of the X-Men movies, but
I mean, Nightcrawler was one of those guys, like characters, where you're like, that's how strong instant teleportation would be.
You know what the dumbest thing I seen was this week? I seen who would win in a fight, Magneto versus Iron Man. And one guy put a comment at the bottom, you guys realize what Iron Man's made out of? Like, it's not even a contest.
No.
Magneto just goes like this, crunch, and you're a can.
Yeah.
Yeah. When people are like, well, it could be non-magnetic metal.
So it's a 3D printed?
No, to a point, because some metals are non-magnetic. But if you get a strong enough magnetic field, all metals at some point become magnetic.
Well, it wouldn't even matter. He would have one thing.
Metal.
And that would be
a filling.
Yeah.
It is too. Just
yeah.
Right?
No, I don't know, but did you ever see like the House of X?
No.
Where it was Wolverine was looking after like the kids, teaching them to be efficient.
Well, that was like
It was
the
like
second.
cartoon or something.
Oh, I never watched the cartoon. No.
I watched that, and they explained Nightcrawler's teleportation for what it actually does. Because in that series, they made it so eventually some of the mutants were getting injections that were enhancing them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got enhanced, it was permanent.
Well, in the movies, they kind of hint at those, but if you'd never seen them before, it wouldn't come out.
Yeah.
So, like, I never knew that. But in the movies, they actually do that. But that's one of those cool things that Marvel does. They're like, if people know this, it's going to be really neat. And if people don't know, it isn't going to matter because they don't know.
Well, the cool thing is so he got it. And then it made it so he could teleport anywhere.
Right.
Anywhere he wanted, as long as he could picture it in his mind.
Because if you watch X-Men Origins, Beast, in the beginning of that movie, can't turn blue and go awesome beast mode, right?
Yeah.
He's just got the weird feet thing.
Yeah.
He came up with the injection that supposedly was going to suppress his, but it boosted it.
Yeah. But
so he really goes beast mode.
So when he teleports, it's instantaneous. But the further he started jumping, the longer he would be in the other dimension that he is crossing.
Well, you'd have to think that, I mean, time would have to continue to go.
But it was just really cool because what ends up happening in that show is he finds that when he teleports too far away, the demons can follow him out the portal that he makes to come back. But when he does short distances, it's so quick that he didn't even know he was going through it.
Right.
But I remember that. I was like, that was pretty cool. That's how they explained his.
But what's funny is, like, there's so many more cooler characters in the X-Men, but what's our favorite X-Men character? Wolverine, definitely. Like,
because he's the only one that isn't like, he's like an anti-hero.
Yeah, he's kind of like the Punisher kind of guy.
Right, where he's a hero. He doesn't want to be, but he just doesn't want to be involved, but he always gets involved.
Right.
But he always does the right thing. The only difference with the Punisher is he's all about revenge, where Wolverine's only...
I don't think the Punisher's more about revenge. I think he's more about...
people he goes after killed his wife and kid.
Well, that was revenge. But once he gets through that, it's not about revenge. It's about punishment for those who can't... who escape punishment because of weird judicial garb.
Well, I think the thing, like...
And I got to say, if you have not watched The Punisher on Netflix, you are missing out. Because that is by far and away the best version of The Punisher you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
Like, it is, and he starts out in Daredevil, which was a fantastic series, by the way. It was awesome. I don't recommend what was the one with the monk guy? It was kind of sucky. It was really slow.
Iron Fist.
Iron Fist. It was slow.
It was slow. It had its moments.
But it was slow. And Jessica Jones was a lot of fun though too.
Yes.
Like if you're a Doctor Who fan and you watch the Mr. Purple guy, that guy is crazy. Like the things that guy does to people because he has the power to just influence people, like telling them what to do. Like when he made that guy stick his hand in, like my biggest fear, I have a garbage disposal. It freaks me out every time a spoon falls in it. Even though I know I'm the only one who can push the button to turn it on.
Yeah, but what if you reach in and something
shorts
and...
Stop it. You're freaking... I hate that thing.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say, it doesn't have to... It can go off without you flicking the switch.
I know, and that thought crosses my mind every time. I'm like, I got to pull a spoon out of here.
That's why you don't stick your hand in it. You're supposed to have tweezers that you use to get at it.
Well, I'm lazy and I want to get a pair of pliers.
So it's your own stupid fault.
Like, did you see Jessica Jones, that series?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, where he forces that lady to hold her hand in there and the guy to hit the switch. And he's like, if she does something or moves or falls asleep or does anything, you flip the switch. And they have to do it. Like, they can't not do it.
Yeah. But, yeah, that was a good one.
Oh, that's just dark. Like, for...
And
why isn't that on Disney Plus?
Because there's an interesting romance scene in that one, if you remember.
Yeah, with Luke Cage. I never got through that one. Did you finish Luke Cage?
Yes. Yeah.
I never finished.
Sammy and I watched all of those ones. Those were ones that I could bear to watch because I don't like watching TV too much. But because I'm a nerd comic book person, if you throw something at me,
the Punisher was just so good.
Yeah, they did that one really well.
Like you're like, oh my god, the fact that guy he befriends that dude who's trying to blackmail him in the beginning, and their whole character relationship to that whole thing is just nuts. You're just like, yeah, it was a lot of fun. That went from like pretending to be a time jumper to let's talk about comics.
Well, that's how we roll.
Right?
We just go wherever we want. We don't have
we time jump through everything.
Yeah. What people don't realize is we went back, watched these shows, and came back to tell you about them because we were like, oh, we hadn't seen that one.
Yep. So highly recommend any of the ones on Netflix. The Iron Fist is okay. It started out like it was gonna be a lot of fun, and then it just got kind of.
I mean, it's got its moments, and that's kind of what you want in a show.
Daredevil was really good.
Yeah.
God forbid Ben Affleck ever play another Daredevil.
Why don't we need to do? We need to sit down. We got to watch Daredevil.
Which one?
The Ben Affleck one.
Oh God.
And then we have to watch the Green Lantern, Ryan Reynolds.
Ugh. Even Ryan Reynolds hates that movie.
Yeah, that's why he goes
Deadpool.
back in time in Deadpool.
He time travels.
Shoots himself.
My favorite scene is not even a scene in the actual movie; it's a cut scene in the end where he's like goes back to see baby Hitler. He's like, "We could do this. We could do this. We could do this." And he's just like holding the little baby, and you're like, I can't. Oh, no wonder why you became so evil. You got something in your diaper, and you're like, oh, yeah.
They're supposed to be making a third one.
Mm-hmm. He's supposed to make an appearance in the MCU. Him and all, because he's an X-Men.
Yeah. Well,
like I don't know how you could put Deadpool in anything that shows on Disney Plus.
Well, so did you ever see Hulk versus Wolverine, the cartoon?
No.
So you should watch that because there's Deadpool's in that, and there's a scene where Wolverine's captured. Hulk is on a rampage.
What?
Well, because they you can capture him, and then they pin him to like a wall, and it's funny because Deadpool goes up to him, and it's one of my iconic scenes for the two of them. Because they used to be partners,
right?
And he's like, "Are you still bulletproof?" He's like, "Huh?" And then, he goes up and he puts the gun right to his head, and then it kind of blacks. You hear a shot go, and he's like, "Ow!" because it deflected and hit him. So the next scene is Deadpool walking out with a bullet hole in his head because he just shot himself by deflecting it off of.
Yeah. Honestly, the Deadpool movie was perfect. Like that movie is perfect.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that they did Ryan Reynolds again because I know Wolverine, the first Wolverine movie where it was just about Wolverine.
Oh, it was so bad.
And they had Deadpool, but they had Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool in the elevator.
He pokes fun of himself throughout the Deadpool movie for all of his older Deadpools that he played.
But I remember watching that and I went, that sounds like Deadpool. And then when they did the weird thing at the end, I was like, oh, they ruined it. But I was glad that they chose Ryan Reynolds again to play Deadpool.
Well, Ryan Reynolds wanted to play Deadpool. He wanted to remake that part because he knew the original was like you see him in the original in the Deadpool movie where he's got the figurine of himself with the swords coming out of his arm. Like, that makes no sense, right? and it cuts his head off, and you're like, hey, we'll go back. Like, here's my thing. Like in Deadpool 2 when he gets ripped in half. How come the top half of his body regenerates, but not the bottom half? So there would be two.
So I've always been confused.
Or here's the thing: put yourself back together, and you just fuse back together.
Well, so that's the thing. That's what I'm confused about with Deadpool. So if you just shot him and stuff like that, he slowly heals.
No, it's quick enough.
Yeah, but I mean, he's like Wolverine in that sense. And it's because he got some of the DNA from Wolverine.
Not according to the Deadpool movie.
But the weird thing is it's traditionally the way it's supposed to work for him is if he gets cut up, he doesn't regrow limbs. He has to go find his limbs and put them back on.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've ever played it. There was an old Deadpool game. I recommended it. It's hilarious. I actually have. I should let you borrow it because it's freaking hilarious. But at one point, he gets blown up. But because he can regenerate, his body parts that had shrapnel and stuff.
They do it in the second movie when he blows himself up at the beginning. Yeah. Colossus collects his body parts.
Yeah. So
later in the movie, when he gets ripped in half, he just leaves his bottom. Well, they take his bottom half. You can see her packing him out, but he grows his bottom legs. Where is his other half? What are they doing?
So from my understanding, he would have had to get the other half
put together, right?
And they would stay healthy. So it would just stay healthy.
Because you can see it later. He's duct taped his uniform back together.
Yeah. But I mean, I remember in the game when they had that thing, you were his head, and you're rolling around trying to find your other pieces, and you have to go collect them.
So do you know who played Juggernaut's voice in that movie?
No.
Ryan Reynolds. It's Ryan Reynolds with a voice thing.
Oh, Juggernaut. Okay, yeah. For some reason,
because he's like, he's like, I'm gonna rip you in half now. It's like that is such a Juggernaut thing to say. It was just and the special appearances by guys in that movie was just like all the guys that got to show up and do little parts in that movie that you didn't like. Brad Pitt was in it for about 3 seconds.
The Invisible Man.
Yeah. The Vanisher.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't tell if he's actually not here or not.
Yeah, you're like, you got this. But he never talked either.
Yeah. Like, you're lucky? That's not a superpower.
Oh man, yes it is.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so that was really fun.
Have you seen any of the comics with her in it?
They're
pretty wild. Like I was extremely impressed with how they portrayed that.
I didn't read comics.
She's
the comics. So.
She's not in a whole lot because her power is weird, right? It's
you can't put it on paper. Like it's like she's lucky.
They do, and that's what she said. She's like, I'm just lucky, and they're like, well, no, you dodged that bullet, and then in the comics, she's like, no, I tripped. Right, so they're just like they always portrayed that. I didn't know how they were going to do it.
Well, even Ryan Reynolds says it in the movie. He's like, "How do you portray this superpower? It's stupid. Lucky is not a superpower." And all of a sudden, just the weirdest stuff around her happens.
Yeah, and she is fine.
Like Lady Luck take over when she lets go of the wheel and the bus starts driving itself.
Yeah, she is. She's considered the strongest character in the Marvel universe.
Ooh, I don't know.
Not even Thanos can stop her.
She's just lucky.
Yeah. Anytime she's shown up in a comic, which she's not in a lot, she has not always beaten the person, but they can't do anything to her.
Because she's just lucky.
Yeah. So like he would go to like an example is he'd go to use the stone and it would fall out of the socket. And she'd be like, well,
I'm out. Because she can't do anything to beat him.
No.
But he,
Yeah,
I wouldn't say she's the strongest, but I would say she's definitely the most.
She's got
the hardest to kill.
Yeah.
Like, she's like impossible to get to because you can't really get to her.
Yeah. Because her power doesn't include anyone around her.
Right.
So it's just for her. But can you just imagine that like in some of the comics she talked about how she can't go to a casino because she'll just go and she'll win.
Well, it wouldn't be fun anymore.
Yeah, but that's just it. That's her whole character, and that's why I thought they did it really well. The whole character just doesn't care anymore because nothing ever goes wrong for them.
Right.
Could you imagine? That's like a curse. Like, I like being able to complain about, like,
I would be the world's greatest goalie.
Yeah. But then you'd be so bored with it. You'd be like, I'm just going to skate over to the corner.
But I think, I don't think her power just happens. I think she turns it on.
The way that it's done is she doesn't know how to.
Like, she doesn't know what's going to happen. But she's like, I'll just power it up and we'll see what happens.
I don't know if she does. Like, they always just portray it as it's just always happening. So whenever anything bad would happen to her, something alters it.
All I know is that those two movies have casted and written and directed those movies perfect. Like,
oh, yeah.
Cable, ridiculous. Like, well,
and the banter between Colossus and...
Oh, it's just...
Because Colossus was always genuinely, like, the big Russian teddy bear.
Right.
And he tries to portray it, but he just keeps getting so mad at Wade.
Oh, how could he not? Like I love it. He's in the second one. He's driving around in Professor X's wheelchair.
That's great.
And you actually see the X-Men in a room. They just shut the door.
Yeah. And well, you can tell it was like superimposed for the.
We just couldn't afford another X-Men.
Yeah. They didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you guys have been listening to Average Rants here at KNMC
90.1
FM. And just to remind everybody, we will be probably cutting the show short in about a half hour due to the fact that there is a child that needs
a party.
And we have to supply the pizza.
And we have to get the cake later, but we'll worry about that later.
Yeah, we'll worry about that when time comes. But for now, I mean, let's be honest. Pizza's for us. The kids will have like 2 pieces.
No, are you serious? 2? We're going to a park or the playground. They're going to eat 2 bites and go, I'm full.
Well, my daughter looks at it and she's full.
Well, your daughter eats through her eyes. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Like how she got so tall eating nothing but broccoli. I kid you not. We went to Perkins for breakfast. She ordered broccoli and pancakes.
Did she eat all her broccoli and pancakes?
The pancakes had syrup, whipped cream, and sprinkles on them.
Yeah.
Didn't touch them.
Daddy ate them.
Well, like my wife made the fruity pebble cake the other day.
Yeah.
I accidentally cut her piece a little bit big, but I knew you'd eat it anyway. She like fruity pebble cake. Do I need to say anything else?
We know you're addicted to the cereal.
Are you not?
Oh, I am, but apparently you like thrive off it.
Oh,
It's part of your
My
major
Vanna
food
doesn't
groups.
even buy it anymore because she'd have to buy a bag every other day. Because Aurora eats it like that too. Like where we'll just eat like 2 bowls of it a day.
Well, I mean, I told you, you cut the cereal box and make it so it's a lid, and then you slice open the bag, and then you have a bowl the size of the bag of the cereal.
Right.
You don't even need a bowl. There's no dishes.
I showed you that meme the other day, right? Or that GIF of that dude, how he made a face shield, basically a human feeder.
Yeah, I did say you've completed.
Because you just like, oh, I'm gonna go play some video games. Fill me up, just so I can see. And I
You're like a cow with a feed.
like the horse with a feeder on his
Yeah.
mouth. You just put the face shield on upside down so it wraps your chin, makes an airtight seal. You got constant food right to your face.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend soups or anything like that, but dry foods definitely.
Oh man,
You better do your community calendar though.
man, there's like nothing.
There's stuff.
Do you think I could throw in the community calendar helping me move?
If anyone's interested in helping Barry move,
I probably will. I'll probably be like, we'll be moving. Well, on the 30th, we have Lego Town at Haverhill Hill County.
we can plug hockey's going to start soon, so you can do the Pete Cameron camp starts in 2 weeks. That's the 8th.
Oh yeah, when is that?
So if your kids are in hockey or interested in being in hockey, this is a good time to do so. You can register now, or you can register there.
Oops. Haverhill Ice Hawks.
I love how the Ice Dome showed up first.
Let's see what's
So
on.
there's always that. The elevated hockey camp. This is good for 8-year-olds and up.
Oh, here it is. It is on October 8th to the 10th.
Yeah.
The time slots are depending on the number of kids that are registered, but it'll still be during that time. You can go to the haverilcehawks.com website and you could register for elevated hockey there. So if you have a kid that's interested and wants to get a little bit better at hockey, they can either A, go to this, or B, contact me, and I'll show them how to play some hockey.
Right. And for the adults that are interested, you can register at the same website for adult hockey. That's if you want to play any games. But if you're just interested in seeing what it's about, show up to the Haver Ice Dome at 1 o'clock on Sundays. You don't need any gear or anything. We can help you out there.
Yeah, even if you don't know how to skate, we'll teach you to skate.
We'll teach you to skate. We'll teach you how to do everything. We got it all.
Yeah, you may not think that you know how to skate. You think it's going to take you so long, but you've never had me teach you how to skate.
We'll have you skating by the end of the session. You should be moving a little bit. Stopping is the.
Yeah, we don't worry about stopping.
Yeah, the boards and the ice stopping.
That's what you have equipment for.
Right. Other players skate fast the other way. So there's that. Can't think of any. What else is going on? You got the calendar there. You can go to the.
It only
Lego
goes up
time?
to the 6th, and everything on here is like the Haverhill County Library.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if anybody's got events coming up that they want, we do public service announcements. That's what this really is.
Right.
So
We are a public service.
If you want some free airtime, just send a message at KNMC on Facebook, and we'll do what we can.
We'll get it out there.
I mean, people do listen to us.
Like 5 of you.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. But it is Sunday and football season, so most people probably aren't listening now. There might be a couple.
I don't understand football season.
It's also hockey season.
Well, it's just I find it really weird that it's so many games in one day.
Because you can't play throughout the week.
Why?
Scheduling wouldn't work out very well, and players need to see them. A lot of the majority of the players already hate the fact that they play Thursdays. So you get them.
No, you're getting paid so much money.
You're playing on, but you're also playing a game with the highest injury rate of any sport by far.
We'll get better.
Right. So You play a game on Sunday and you go, well, we need to play a game on Thursday. Well, what normally happens is they take Monday off if you played Sunday. You get Monday off. Tuesday, you do a walkthrough, you do your classroom stuff for stuff like that. And then Wednesday, you get practicing. And then Thursdays, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you do your other practices. But when you cut those other days out, you lose 2 days of actual practice.
Because you do realize that.
But then you do get 10 days. If you play Thursday, you get a 10-day, you get a longer week.
Like in the NHL, it's every 3 days they play a game usually.
Correct.
And that is more intense than football.
Yeah, but the injury...
Athletically. Not injury rate,
right.
But athletically, you can't tell me that a hockey player has...
I can tell you from having played both sports, I could play football once a week and I could play hockey every night of the week.
Well, that's just because it's fun. That's the difference.
Football's a lot of fun too. I just think, but because you like skating, I'm not going to take skating as it's easy. Skating is a lot easier, low impact.
It's glide, not.
And you're not every play in football. You're colliding with somebody at full force.
Not if you're good. If you're a runner and nobody ever touches you, you get touchdowns.
That doesn't happen very often. But that's the thing for me. I don't like the fact they have Thursday games because the players don't look like they still look drained from the week before. So,
no,
but they just wanted to cash in on more games every week. So
that's why I just get so confused with how much money football players make when they don't play.
Don't get mad at players. Hate the owners.
Well,
they're the ones who pay it.
The owners, it's just in general, I guess.
Their
Well,
teams,
I guess you'd rather the money go to the players than the owners.
Right.
I don't really know. It's just weird because I'm always confused why hockey.
Well, you were, and I pointed this out yesterday because you asked me about Kirill Kaprizov. If one of our best players for the Wild was going to come back because he was technically being sought after by the KHL, who could just throw wads of money at players because the Russian government doesn't want their players to go over here. Well, he signed a $54 million contract, and you're like, what year is he? He's a second year or third year player.
Yeah. Well, Matthews did $11 million a year at his second year.
But Austin Matthews was sought after from the time he was 14 years old. They knew he was going to be a hockey player. Yeah. You'd never heard of Kirill Kaprizov until
I still really haven't. It's just because you're a Wild fan.
But then I rattle off your stats like Jesus.
He's got good stats.
He's like 54 points for a rookie in his first year in the NHL, and he probably didn't even play as often as he could have.
It's just disappointing that he's on a team that I don't think he'll go anywhere with him.
Well, same with Matthews, right?
Oh no, they're going.
He said that 3 years in a row, and they went right to the first round and flushed the toilet.
Yeah, but guess what?
Tavares isn't going to get hurt.
We say it.
At least you say
it. I'd rather cheer for a team that has faith.
Want to ready for another conspiracy theory?
I'm ready.
This is a good one.
I've been prepping.
You were a prepper? Conspiracy theorists think a homeless man found in California was actually Elvis Presley. Oh, yeah. Found this today. Read the whole story. It's awesome. A homeless man found in California is believed to be, by conspiracists, actually the late Elvis Presley. The body of this homeless man was found under a bridge in San Diego, California. He's reported of being around 80 years old.
Oh, it matches.
The man, known as Tommy, Jesse, or Vern, they're not, well, because he's homeless, was reportedly a familiar face within the homeless community, having been living on the streets for decades. However, his true identity remained a mystery to police until his DNA was processed. DNA don't lie.
No.
Right? Upon his DNA being processed by a coroner as a matter of routine, the name Presley arose. According to the book Urban Legends, Strange Tales and Unsolved Mysteries from Around the World by Jesse Proud. That's crazy. That came out of a weird book. The book details that the body apparently looked suspiciously like what Presley might have looked like in his 80s, and had he not passed away on August 16th, 1977. Here's a picture of him. It's kind of, I don't know, could be, maybe. Like you see it, right? Like that could, I mean, that could be, right? The FBI and the police had to be notified of the coroner's test results, and another conspiracy theory was subsequently born. Now, it's not to say that there aren't other people in the United States with the last name Presley.
Yeah.
Right? But the DNA supposedly matched. However, this is not the first conspiracy theory to have been sparked around the king of rock and roll. For years, fans have had their doubts of whether the star actually died. That's true. People have been like, no, Elvis didn't die. And Men in Black even made the joke that he went home. Yeah, he just went home. He's not dead. He just went home. From a misspelling on his headstone with his middle name labeled as Aaron, A-A-R-O-N, rather than how Presley actually spelt it, A-R-O-N, to various supposed sightings of the Hound Dog star around the world. Was this latest finding really the real Presley? Other theorists speculated that the body of the homeless man was not the star, but instead it was his twin brother, Jesse, who, according to the Urban Legends book, was reported as having died at birth. This is why it's conspiracy.
I don't know why, but as soon as you finish, I want to be like,
Furthermore, Urban Legend says that the technicians never heard anything more about the body, and that the coroners told them to keep it to themselves. According to a YouTube video, which reminds me of people, don't listen to YouTube. It's not a legit news place.
Yeah, we don't know nothing.
We know nothing. No. Do not use YouTube as a form of getting information.
I mean, little do people know that we actually work for a secret organization within the government that the government doesn't even know about. But...
Yeah, and we talk through time.
Yeah.
We've already done this twice.
Yeah, this is like our...
That's why the show is so good. We've done this like 3 times.
We kind of do it, and then we go around and talk to people, see what they thought, and then come back and
redo it again, right? Anyway, according to the YouTube video, which has subsequently been made in light of the conspiracy theory, a lab technician said that he and his lab assistant thought that someone had pulled the most elaborate prank on them when the star's name came up in the DNA test. They thought that their superior had been behind the trick. However, they were reportedly told to simmer down, and stay quiet, and that it was no laughing matter. From then, the results were sent to the FBI and CIA. According to conspiracy videos, an FBI spokesperson named Philip Hunter confirmed weeks later that the body belonged to Presley, who had supposedly been in the witness protection program since 1977. Why?
I don't know. I wish I was in the witness protection program since 1977. Do you want to go back and be in it?
Let's do it. We'll be back.
We'll be right back.
Okay, we're back.
That was crazy.
Right? This video has since amassed 373,000 views, 2,700 likes, and 717 comments, with other YouTubers taking to the comments to chime in with their own theories. One said John Lennon is still alive. Prince is still alive, now as his crazy sister. Okay.
I always get really confused with these kind of things because why is it that it's like superstars that are always not dead, but it can't be like my uncle is still walking around, you know?
Bowie is still alive. Joe Rivers is still alive. You can look this up on the net. Yes, you can look up anything on the internet. That doesn't mean it's true.
Yes, it does. Like, what could we type in?
Is Elvis Presley dead?
Is dead. The first thing that popped up is he is deceased.
Yes. What's the second thing?
Why do some think he's alive?
All right. So you can look this up on the net. What is going on with these dead celebrities? One person wrote, why in heaven's name would anyone believe that a homeless man is Elvis Presley? The man was worth more dead than alive. And if he just recently died, he wasn't homeless. Too many people who wouldn't have let that happen. The third commented, I knew I had seen him a few times over the years. I wondered if he ever went to Vegas and played an impersonator of himself. Whether or not the conspiracy is true or not, one thing can be agreed upon by the internet, despite some suspicious minds, is how much they love and miss Elvis Presley. I'm not going to break anybody's hearts here, but Elvis is dead.
Yeah. He is.
He's.
But I mean, how crazy.
But he lives on through his music.
Well, I mean, people live on through their memories.
Right.
Other people. So, but I mean, the crazy thing is could you imagine if somebody, I'm just trying to think, like Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks was to pass away, but he didn't. He didn't want to deal with the fame.
So he fakes his own death.
So he fakes it. But then he's like, you know what? I still miss singing. So he impersonates himself, and he goes to do shows.
You could do that as Elvis, though. I mean, think about it. How many people, if you take a trip to Elvis, granted, you're walking through a hotel, you're going to see somebody dressed up as Elvis. I guarantee.
But could you imagine doing that? So we'll just use Elvis then. He does that. He is doing that. He goes and does a show, and people are like, yeah, you're all right, but you're not as good as Elvis. And he could literally be like, what is wrong with you?
Well, no, I mean, he might even smirk, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not as good as the real Elvis, but he knows he is Elvis. I mean, impersonating yourself will be the easiest thing in the world. Like, there's no work at it. There was no
people
work
would criticize you
That's
for
just
not being
it, right?
good at it.
Yeah.
That'd be funny. That would be a better conspiracy theory for me.
Like, he's alive. He's just going to all these conventions.
He's alive,
himself.
and he keeps calling himself Elvis Presley, and everybody thinks he's.
Did you ever watch the movie 3,000 Miles to Graceland?
No.
Really?
I've heard of that movie, though.
It's got Kurt Russell, Kevin Costner, Christian Slater, and they're all Elvis impersonators, and they rob a casino. It's always fun.
Well, it looks like we have something to do.
Oh, you gotta watch it. It's good.
Yeah, no. That'd be. I don't know. I don't always like the they're still alive conspiracy theories, because some of them are like, well, if they are, they're dead now.
Well, I mean, Elvis could. I mean, he was born in 1935,
Yeah.
and in 2022, that would put him at 90.
Right. So I mean, there's a good chance he might have already.
This guy said he was 80, but once you hit a certain age, it's really like you're not gonna know if he was actually 90 or 80, right?
Well, that's like my buddy. My buddy's from the Philippines, and he used to always say, he's like, yeah, I hit my peak at 21. He's like, because now I look like I'm 80.
Right? You know, I mean, honestly, I went for the longest time where I felt like I was always the youngest in the room, and now I've gotten to that point where if I'm sitting in the hockey locker room a lot of nights, and I'm like, if Dale isn't in there, I'm like, pretty sure I'm the oldest guy in here.
Yeah, that's why I like being in the locker room that you're at.
Yeah,
because then you're the oldest guy there.
And I'm not that old. In fact, I look younger than some of the guys we play hockey with.
Well, that's what sucks. Like, I was talking with my dad a little bit about it, because our generation had one of the biggest jumps for technology.
The stuff we've seen, we've even commented on it yesterday. We're watching Slapshot, and they're watching those shows on those ancient TVs and stuff.
And we use those.
And their infatuation with the color green in the 70s. Like, why?
Right? Our parents, my dad saw the same change, but he was an adult going through it. We went through it as kids, so it was just like, So that now I'm like, well, what's new?
Well, I asked you this very simple question. Like, if we gave our kids a rotary phone and asked them what the letters were for on the numbers, they wouldn't know how to answer us.
Yeah, no. And I remember, but the thing is, I remember when I was a kid, it took me a while to figure that out, that it was it meant all three of the letters. It was just when you had...
You don't push it that many times.
No, but what was it? It would be 1-800-SQUEEZE me. Right? And you have to just go squeeze me.
What were you watching?
The 1 a.m. soft stuff.
Yeah.
Remember that?
We'll talk to you. Yeah, for $18 a minute, I'll talk to anyone.
I used to hate that, because if you stayed up at until midnight, you could watch on City TV or whatever. You could watch a good action movie, and then when it finished, all of a sudden it'd be like, give us a call, and I'm like, what?
No, my favorite was, do you need a friend? And I could just see you going, yeah, I need a friend for $29.99 a minute. No, I don't need any friends.
I could find one if I just walk outside for cheaper than that.
Right. If I just wave a 10 around, somebody will talk to me for a couple minutes.
Like, what are you doing? Waving a 10 around? Do you need that 10? No.
Here you go. Let's just walk. You talk to me.
Yeah. At least a minute.
Right? Will you talk to me for $10 for 1 minute?
Man. Do those still exist?
Yes, they do.
Really? Oh, man, I don't know why people would do that. You could just go to a chat room.
With the internet, I can't understand why anybody pays for anything like that anymore.
You don't have to pay for anything anymore except for the internet.
Taxes.
Well, internet. You can't get internet free. Well, I could, but it's very...
Your neighbor would probably hate you.
Yeah.
The FBI might show up at your door.
Oh, man, my dad worked for Bell. And he got kind of free stuff because he worked with them. But I still remember he was like, so... I don't want to pay for this satellite stuff. And you have to have a card. And the card goes in. So because he installed them, he just took an installer's card and had it as ours. And we would be like watching whatever we wanted.
So here's the thing we were just talking about, what we've seen come in our lifetime. You remember satellite when you were like 10 years old?
Oh, and it was like the big one.
Dude, you could live in that dish,
It'd
right?
be like...
Right now, if your kid's watching TV on a satellite dish, I bet you they don't even know what your dish looks like because it's hidden somewhere up on your roof and you can't see it.
Yeah. When we got ours, my dad had to put like a 20-some foot pole, and it had to be up because we had trees, and he had to cut down a bunch of the trees so that it could get the signal, but then you still couldn't get all of them because it would hit some of the trees a little bit.
Right.
And the thing, yeah, man, it was like a family-sized snowboard. You could like all sit in and go.
So I remember when I was like 10 or 12 years old, I got these walkie-talkies. Every kid had walkie-talkies, right, as a kid. Well, apparently these cheap walkie-talkies worked on the same frequency as some cordless phones did. So I could pick up cordless phone conversations. I couldn't talk to them, but I could pick up cordless phone conversations through the walkie-talkie. If I
remember that.
The stuff would come through and like, huh, like, who is speaking?
Hello. Yeah, I remember that. Or like with your radios when you had to turn the antenna and then you'd randomly pick up somebody talking.
And you'd like go over and say, I don't want to be the antenna.
Yeah, but you're the best conductor.
So you're standing there, an arm in the air, and you're bending cockeyed sideways so you can watch the TV.
I got to ask you one thing to see if you did this kind of stuff.
Yes.
Did you ever have a tape player and record songs on the radio?
Yeah. No. I don't. No, because CDs were a thing.
Well, not CDs, but like the cassettes.
I know. Like you could play the radio and record it on cassette. I never did that. I know a lot of guys who did.
I did all, and I used to put it up against like Disney movies and record the Disney songs.
But here is the reason why. I when my parents separated when I was in just out of middle school, we moved to North Dakota. Not exactly my flavor of music, which is all country music. So I didn't listen to the radio, which is why I didn't record the radio. I would use CDs. And my stepdad was a classic rock, so he liked all the songs like Boston and rock and roll like that, George Thorogood. But he did have some. He had like Bryan Adams. This is where I heard Bryan Adams, right? So I didn't have to because he constantly had good music coming through in CDs, and I just listened to CDs. And then I was old enough to get a job and buy my own stuff. So I never recorded the radio, but I knew I did record a lot of TV. You guys will never know. Don't touch the VCR or the TV from 8 to 11. I'm recording a movie.
Yeah.
And if I was dedicated about it, I would sit there and wait for the commercials and hit the stop button.
Did you ever have one of those VHS tapes that had 3 movies on it, but you had to fast forward or rewind to find the start of each one?
But I was diligent enough sometimes where I would literally hit the stop record button the second the movie cut away to do a commercial, have my finger on the record button, and hit it just as soon as the movie came back on so I didn't have to watch commercials.
But that meant that you watched the commercials.
I watched them, but after the movie was recorded, I never had to watch them again. No,
Yeah.
my aunt, and this is where I seen Major League for the first time. It was in her I remember going to her house. Her house had videotapes, and there were They didn't buy a movie. They just record. They would rent them and record them.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was like, because
you
you couldn't stop anybody from doing that. If you had 2 VCRs, you could do this easy.
But the weird thing is that was never illegal.
Never.
And you could, and nobody cared. The only thing that would suck is when somebody recorded over the movie that you rented.
I just remember that scene from Basketball where he's trying to rewatch his childhood memory of the home run that he got from Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
And then it's his buddy recorded over it with like, what was it, like roadkill scenes. He's like, oh, like we've all been there, right?
No, but I don't know.
Or you set up the timer and forgot to check if it was AM or PM on the VCR.
But it's just so weird because like back then you could do that, and it was like nobody cared. And then CDs came out, you could still do it. It was a little bit more difficult.
You just had to be able to rip them.
Now that it is easy, it's almost it's easier than renting and then recording. But now everyone cares so much about it.
But the thing is, and here's the thing, like, and I've noticed this, I haven't bought new music in forever, but I have access to tons of music for free.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to pay a dime, and I can listen to all kinds of music I want. Like, I have the free Spotify account, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have to listen to a commercial every few minutes, but I get a ton of music that I don't have to pay for.
Yeah.
I don't have to buy CDs. I don't have to spend $20 on a CD. So
the only thing I'm worried about, and this is just because, I've taken a lot of history courses lately, the way that our era is going, we won't have anything for people to find history on us.
It's all digital.
Yeah. So, and the problem with digital is, like, I'm going to tell you, you take a hard drive right now, I don't care what kind it is, you bury it in the ground for 10 weeks and then try to use it. We'll see if it's any good.
All you need is a good magnet, and it's done.
Right? So, like, that is a big thing. Like, 1,000 years from now, are people going to look back and think?
Well, that's the reason. Why do we know what the Egyptians knew? Because they literally carved it into stone. Like, it's going to last. We're like, here's our data footprint.
Well, that's what I mean. We do record keep way better than they used to because it's easier. But it's in a way that you have to be able to get it. So unless we preserve the hard drive somewhere, there's no way that, like, well, let's be honest. Do you have any old, like, really old hard drives that can only hold like 200 megabytes?
Nope.
Right? Because you throw them out now.
Well, you throw out your computer when you buy a new one.
Right? So, like, that's gone. So people are going to find the remains, but then not be able to access the stuff.
Yeah. I look at a computer and see a 3.5-inch floppy drive in it and go,
yeah.
I remember what that's for.
But yeah, that's one of the things I worry about. And like, oh man, I was watching this video and I was so mad. I know everybody hates the Taliban because of all the bad things that they've done just to people. But I don't think people have realized what they've done to art. And
everything. They destroy everything.
Have destroyed like 2,000-year-old like Buddha statues and things like that, just because they're trying to get rid of all other religions in their area.
They're trying to erase history, literally, like it didn't exist.
And that's horrible. Like I felt like I was going to cry watching that, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a big history junkie, but I do know that we need to know.
You need to know your history because it's one of those old sayings that if you don't know history, you're bound to repeat it.
And well, it's just like some of the things like from back then are just so interesting when it comes to like where did the Egyptians go?
Where did they go?
Yeah, what happened?
They didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, but what happened to their civilization?
They were absorbed into others.
But right, like nobody really actually, because it's almost like all these cultures just disappeared at one point.
Cultures do that all the time. They just come up and disappear.
That's like the cool thing, and that's what I like about it is trying to figure out.
It's like where did the Vikings go? They didn't go anywhere. They just assimilated into other cultures.
Yeah, I mean, I am clearly a descendant of the Vikings. I can tell when I get on the
ice. If you were born in Sparta, you would have been thrown off a cliff.
That's just because I'm annoying.
Oh.
They would have been like, yeah, you meet all the qualifications. I'd hit 14, and they'd be like, we can't do it.
Well, I mean, that's literally. I mean, you think barbaric? I mean, they looked at a kid. If there was anything weak or wrong with him, that's what they did. Nope,
off the cliff.
bye. Like you're too weak for our society.
Now, do you think they just tossed them off the cliff, or did they do the Spartan kick to the?
I don't want to picture either. Let's be honest here.
Come on, South Park does kick the baby.
Like I can watch a lot of things in movies. Like I can watch gore and blood and guts, but there are a few things that I have a real tough time watching. And I remember watching Alien versus Predator Requiem, and the scene where that alien predator thing is in the nursery gets me like seriously, you start messing with babies and you're getting to a new level, right?
Well, that movie you got me to watch, Jolt, where she throws the kid.
Right? That movie's fun, but that movie, you're just like, in that scene, you're like, wow. And I don't handle movies with, and I know they're movies and they're acting, but sometimes they're just really good at it. So if there's like any like type rape type scenes in them, they just bother me, which is, I would say, is a good thing. Like if you watch a movie with rape in it and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like I have a tough time with that type of stuff. Like violence on little baby. I mean, even before I had kids, I couldn't watch it. Like that Alien Requiem was about as bad as it got for me.
Well, I mean, it's rare. It's only been recently that they've started having violence against kids in something that's not a documentary. Because there's just been like a lot of things where I've been watching. They're like, oh yeah, traditionally they've never. And I'm trying to think of what it was that I was talking with my wife. I was like, yeah, they've never harmed a kid in any of these type of movies. And then we're watching this movie. I'm like, they harmed a kid. It's never what?
But it pushes more to reality because it does happen.
Yeah, but it was one of those.
It was one. Well, and when we were watching Slapshot last night, you could not make that film now.
No.
Like,
no, you could not.
You just can't make that movie right now. At all.
It was, and I love that movie, but really, I love it for the.
But that doesn't mean you agree with what they're talking about in the movie, right?
No, there's like so many things where I don't even know why they had it in the movie.
Right.
Like, I really don't think that the backstory thing between the girl and that husband really needed to be a main plot line within it. The one between the main, like the coach and his ex-wife, that made sense.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It really could have just been more about the players on the team rather than any of that. Because I would have liked to have known more about that goalie. Because he makes he makes me laugh.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, it was as fun and as it is. I even looked at you last night when we watched the movie. Like, there's no way this movie gets made.
No.
Like you just
couldn't even do a revamp.
No. Like it just like the politically incorrectness of that movie is just
it is
so
very
bad.
Sexist, too. Very sexist.
Racist. I mean, it hits them all.
Yeah. I mean, they did that even with like the Major League. Like the first one was pretty. Well, I don't know if it could get made again. As it gets into the later ones, it gets a bit more modern.
Right. Just trying to think of a scene where, well,
because they do they make fun of the Asian guy a lot.
That's the second one.
Is that the second one? And then, well, I mean, hell, it was made in the 80s. And the 80s didn't have racial censorship.
Some of my favorite movies were coming out in the 80s, but I watch them for what they are. And that's just a movie.
Yeah.
So, and they had that big. I'm glad I wasn't old enough to remember this, but when they said that movies and music promoted violence, like I would have been the first guy in line to say that's stupid. Like I don't feel violent because I play video. Well, we did go through it with the video game thing.
Yeah.
You play video games more than anybody that I know in this town right now, and you're no more violent than anyone.
Well, I'm glad that you would know that. I actually did. I had to do a report in a sociology class that I took when I was in Canada, and I focused on violence in video games and its effect. And out of all of the like peer-reviewed stuff that I read for my paper that I had to write, the only time that a kid that played a lot of video games caused violence was when there was no violence within the household. So like the mother was abused, or the parents fought all the time, or and that makes more sense.
Mm-hmm. But even then, the video game or the movie is just a coincidence.
Oh yeah, like so if you took video games,
it didn't matter. It was going to be there regardless.
If you took video games out of the picture and you just took kids that lived in a violent household that didn't play video games, they're just as likely to be violent as a kid that is in the same situation but plays video games.
Mm-hmm. And even then, I mean, I would have ventured to see how many kids were actually like didn't do the violent thing because they would bury themselves in their games to hide from it.
Well, and I mean, I've played games my entire life. At no point do I feel like it's an outlet to make it so I could shoot somebody.
No.
Right? It's fun just to go and get the adrenaline rush out. But I'm not like I couldn't shoot somebody. That's why I don't like having guns.
Yeah, like I don't like when I'm playing a game or we're playing tabletop, and I'm like, you guys, we would fight this creature and we kill it. I don't think of it as killing a person.
No.
Right.
I'm killing a magical creature that doesn't exist. But I mean, my daughter is 5. Do you think she thinks Scooby-Doo is real?
Absolutely.
No, she actually doesn't.
Because he's not.
Yeah, because she knows that a cartoon is make-believe.
Right.
And when people play video games...
Although she did see a real live unicorn at the parade last year.
And she looked very confused.
Like, what?
She's like, this can't be real. You said that they're mythical. Right? But, I mean, I don't know. You can't tell me that if a 5-year-old does that they go and play a video game and go, this is real, this is what I need to do.
Right.
So, the people that are just crazy out there and stuff like that has nothing to do with the video games.
It just comes from people who don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like, they don't understand. Like, it's an outlet for some people.
Well, I mean, I play Flappy Bird on my phone, so I'm going to jump off a building and fly through weird little holes in the building because if I flap.
Oh, I thought you were talking. It's kind of like Angry Birds, except you could actually control your character.
But you know what I mean? Like, It's like, or you sit there and you look at the people. Like, one of the arguments I had with one of my grandparents once about video games was they played solitaire all the time. So I was like, well, are you going to go commit violence now because you'll get mad when you don't win? No.
You remember like back in the day when the only games that were on your computer were Minesweeper and Pinball?
Yeah, I was really good at those then.
Although you could play Oregon Trail. I remember in grade school we would play the Oregon Trail 2. This is the one where it would show the animated scene of your cart.
You had the animated one?
Oh,
you guys, yeah, I was just going to say.
We were, but only half of the group got those. The other half had to use the typewriters, so we had to switch every week. But so you hurry and finish, and you could do your Oregon Trail. Oh, everyone died of dysentery.
We had Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
But the only thing you did when you did the Oregon Trail is you hunted every 30 seconds. Why? Because you got to shoot it.
Or did you guys have one down here? Because we had it in Canada where it was called the Trans-Canada Highway. And you were a trucker and you had to do get the gas and you had to type it all in so it was all worded. And every once in a while,
one wrong key and you're old.
Yeah, but it would be like, there's a hitchhiker. Would you like to pick them up? If you said yes, they stabbed you.
Well, that's not nice.
I know, right? But I was like, that's so hilarious. There was no way. Anytime you picked up a hitchhiker, you were done. And it was just for kids.
Right.
So it taught you to do what?
Not pick up hitchhikers.
Right.
Which explains why you can never get a ride if you're walking down the street anymore.
I've never hitchhiked. I've been with guys that were hitchhiking, but I wouldn't stick my thumb out. And there was one time I was walking to a buddy's party, and it's like 8 o'clock at night. And I had gotten off work, and it's about an hour to walk from where he was. I didn't have a car then. And I was walking there. I'm like, screw it. I'm going to walk there. I'm going to get drunk, whatever. And I'm about halfway there, and this car pulls over. This is sketchy because this is not like a public road.
This is either how a horror movie starts or a porn movie.
And the worst part is
it's probably the horror movie part.
The guy gets out and he's like, "You heading to Adams?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Want to ride?" I was like, okay. I got in, and I was probably 19, and I got in, and he had a briefcase, and he grabbed it and put it on his lap, and then drove with it. And he's like, "Don't worry about the briefcase." I was like, "Okay," and he dropped me off, so I'm still here, right?
Right.
But that was the last time that I would ever get in a car with somebody I didn't know.
Yeah, it's kind of a sad thing. Like, you feel like, do you feel bad that you were like see somebody hitchhiking who probably legit just wants a ride?
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to bet 95% of the time just want a ride.
Yeah.
But because of that 5%, you're gonna get stuck walking, bro. Sorry. Or like I own a pickup, right? I wouldn't be so against giving somebody a ride at, jump in the box, whatever. I'll give you a ride down to whatever. But in the car with me is something completely different. And that's kind of sad that we've lost trust in our own humanity where we won't give somebody a ride.
What freaking movie was that where they were hitchhiking and they got in the car with the nun, and they thought that meant that they had to service them?
That was Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Because the scene before that, they're sitting with George Carlin, right? And you had to pay for the service.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then he's like, "Have a good one, guys," and he goes down.
You see his head slowly disappear. So you guys can put that together. But that was Jay and Silent Bob. I think it's Strike Back.
Yeah. I remember. I just thought that was funny. They're like, well, and then, but the way she was talking religious, but they were taking it the
other way. Well, because it's Jesus.
Yeah, they're great.
Like my favorite religious movie of all time is Dogma, and it's not because it makes fun of religious; it's because of how true it is.
Yeah, it takes the full facts of it and brings it into a crazy story.
Because Kevin Smith grew up in a his family are fully Catholic, right?
Yeah.
So and he's just like, I grew up with this. We've got to go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Well, it is that time. We started early. We've got to leave early to the
pizza.
Yeah, we've got a party that we got to go to.
We do not skip out on parties.
Yeah, if you guys need Average Rants to come to a party, just let us know.
We'll be there.
But thank you for listening.
As long as I can find a babysitter.
You have been listening to Average Rants on KNMC
90.1
FM, and we are out.
We are out. Do I want to end the stream? Yes.